Hi, good evening all, and welcome to all of you who've tuned in this evening to what is the Muscle Health Foundation Charity's 11th episode in Series 2 of our In Conversation with broadcasts hosted by myself, Michael McGrath. These, as you all know, are informal conversations with interesting guests, personalities, and the occasional celebrity. Our focus, as always, remains firmly on the needs of our vulnerable community, that's children and young people across the UK between the ages of 8 and 28 who have the muscle wasting condition, muscular dystrophy. Now, in having things to look forward to, the aim of these conversations is to support our tribe of muscle warriors, our community, to help them to stay engaged and connected rather than feeling perhaps disengaged, alone, and isolated. Tonight's episode is a little different, I can promise you that, because it's in partnership with another charity, which has come about through an incredible project called Reflections in Colour. And we'll be chatting a little bit more about that very, very shortly. And I've chosen this evening to shine a spotlight on this charity that's been fighting muscle wasting conditions since 1959, when it was founded 62 years ago, a charity for whom I was a trustee, very proud trustee of some 20 years ago, a charity that to this day is close to my heart. I'm, of course, speaking about Muscular Dystrophy UK. So if you have tuned in this evening and you enjoy tonight's episode, I'm going to be inviting you all to make a donation. But here's the thing. Your gift will be in support of their amazing Reflections in Colour project. Now, before we come to tonight's very, very special guests, yes, we've got not one, but two. It's a double act, if you will. And then once again, I'm sending loads of love, hugs, and hope, lots and lots of hope to all those with muscular dystrophy across the country, not just to our muscle warrior families and our muscle dream beneficiaries, but as tonight's episode has no boundaries, this message also goes out to everyone living with muscular dystrophy, whatever the variant may be, to those in supporting and caring roles, to those helping drive the all-important research agenda forwards in finding treatments and cures, to those working in specialist NHS care settings, and of course, to all of those raising money for muscular dystrophy across the country. Wherever you are, whatever fundraising ideas, initiatives you may be planning in the future, thank you. On with tonight's episode, a few quick housekeeping points. Firstly, a safeguarding note. As always, we have eyes over tonight's broadcast, so if any inappropriate comments or unacceptable behaviors are observed, we will be taking action. Secondly, all episodes are recorded and streamed on the charity's Facebook and YouTube channels. And as always, you can help grow our reach by subscribing, by commenting, and of course, by sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know what? As fundraising ideas go, Reflections in Colour really ignited my interest when one of tonight's guests contacted me to tell me a little bit more about the project and asking if I might like to get behind it and support it, which I was delighted to do. It's an online photographic exhibition that was launched last month. Essentially, it's a series of amazing pictures born of the friendship between a businessman and a successful cinematographer. So a truly creative fundraiser with a percentage of profits from the exhibition, from the sales of books, for example, we'll hear a little bit more about that later on, being donated to Muscular Dystrophy UK. And the amazing close bond between Dr. Andrew Robertson, who himself has limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, and Chris Howard, both from the beautiful county that is Kent, was apparently sparked during a Kent Castle walk. Gives me great pleasure to welcome Andrew and Chris on tonight's show. Good evening, chaps. A very warm welcome to you both. How's it going?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Great
Fantastic.
to have you with us. Really great
Lovely
to have
to
you.
be
So
here.
hopefully you've got some cold drinks with you.
Get a glass of water on the side.
A glass of water on the side. Excellent. So first up, tell us a little bit more about that 210 mile Kent Castle walk. What was that all about, and when did that moment in time happen, Chris?
Well, it happened in 2016. Myself and a very good friend came up with the idea about walking the castles in Kent. And my very good friend said he'd join me without realising there was over 25 castles in Kent. So we walked the whole route and mapped it. And then the following year, we did the walk, 210 miles. We created a lovely little map, lots of nice flyers, and we had amazing help. Wherever we finished the walk, we were picked up, and the next day somebody took us there. So there was no expense in overnight costs of motels or hotels. And we walked for MD UK and SANS, which is the stillbirth charity. And it was great fun. We did it over 21 days. And that's where I met Andrew, because we were looking for somebody to sponsor and help us a little bit. We wanted a few little gigs in different places. We had bands playing at Deal. Andrew organised a fantastic barbecue at Leeds Castle. And then we had a wonderful charity orchestra when we got back to Whitstable. So we started in Whitstable, went round Reculver, all the way around via Scotney Castle, Sissinghurst, Cooling Castle, Rochester, Leeds Castle, and back. 25 castles in all. It was great fun, and it was very successful.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's how Andrew and I met, and that was our first fundraising challenge.
I've delved a little bit deeper in terms of learning and understanding about this particular image, which popped up. Tell me about this picture, Andrew. What on earth is that on your head?
Well, Chris and Dave had built these wonderful hats, and they would wear them at different stages of the walk. And then, of course, I was at the Leeds Castle barbecue, and we had the hats, and well, I was a bit jealous that I couldn't try it on. So there we go. It fitted perfectly, yeah,
it's a wonderful,
I'm not entirely
wonderful
sure
picture.
how it was made, Chris. Perhaps you can.
Well, David, my friend David, who's a bit of an artist, he designed most of the stuff with us, which was great. And yeah, he built two hats. This is Leeds Castle and Dover Castle. And yeah, they were quite good, because whenever we came to the end of a walk, we'd put them on, and then people would be either walking with us or people would be meeting us. And very often people used to throw money in it. So it sometimes got quite heavy when you got, a few tons of the coins in there. You also did, although you haven't got it, a lovely little sort of high-speed video of the two castles walking out of our house and down the road to start the walk. And that was quite fun. So David did a lot of stuff. I mean, I'll show you a little thing, this little flyer here, if you can see that. David got that going with all the stuff on it, and then a little map of all our walks on the bottom.
Very good, very good.
And yeah, it worked really well. It took a lot of setting up. And again, we had great help with the maps. We had a license from OS Mapping, so all the maps were compiled by some friends of mine that work for the British Museum. They compile expensive books, so they compacted the maps and did all our instructions for turning left and right, and over this style and under that style. So the package was very well set up.
So I'm going to jump into the chat room, because somebody's already made a comment about great style, Andy! Exclamation mark with a little smiley face. So that's a nice start to the evening. I've got to ask a question, Chris, because I have delved a little deeper into this this journey that you've outlined. I've got to ask you, which newspaper was it that your wife read about Andrew in?
It was the Whitstable Times.
The Whitstable Times.
Yeah, the Whitstable Times, which no longer exists, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They've all been amalgamated.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Margaret saw Andrew in that, and then in the UK also mentioned it. So it was one phone call.
Yeah.
And I explained to Andrew what we were doing, and bang, he was on board straight away.
Very good, very good. So look, let's roll the clock back a few years, shall we? Because part of these in conversation with broadcasts is to talk about a wide range of subjects, and we're certainly going to be doing that this evening, I can promise you. But it'd be good to get a little bit more insight into what I believe Andrew described as, quote unquote, a minor stumbling block, referring to his diagnosis of limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. Tell us more, Andrew.
Well, I was 18 years old, and I'd been going through that period of maybe a year where I was feeling myself getting weaker. At the time, I ran a little gardening company, just on the side, but I was skipping school or on the weekends, and I was finding bending down and standing up was a little bit more difficult. But I was still very active, and then you knew perhaps deep down this wasn't just going to go away. You had that kind of sinking feeling all the while you're going to the doctors and going to specialists and having different tests done. And then when I sat with a consultant at the National Neurological in Queen Square, and he said, "You know this is serious, don't you?" And I looked at him and I'm like, well, I was hoping for good news, but deep down, this is life changing. And I remember just putting the phone down to the GP, perhaps a couple of weeks before then, when the GP had said, "I'm pretty sure it's muscular dystrophy," and I remember just bursting into tears, and then putting the phone down to the GP and thinking, you know what, life's changed for me, and I'm either going to sink or swim, and I'm not a sinker. So this is now, that's the end of the emotion. That's the crying done. I'm reborn, and this is like playing the life game on a video game on the hardest possible setting, and hey, bring it on. And it's it's not always as easy as that. Obviously, you get quite a lot of different bumps in the road. And I think a few years after then, I was very, very keen to remain walking, as everybody is. And I stumbled across one of the first drug trials, the myostatin trial of 2006. And getting myself on the trial, one of 13 patients with my strain of limb-girdle, even though I live nowhere near the test centre, lots of conversations to try and get me onto that trial, and got the drug, not the placebo, pure luck, and felt myself getting stronger. And all of a sudden, it was like, right, this is it. This is going to stop me from the disease progressing further. And then, of course, the major stumbling block when they pulled the trial, and then thinking, right, okay, I'm going to have to start exploring safer ways of transport, because at that stage, walking even with sticks was very, very dangerous. So it's not always been all flowers and happy-go-lucky. But I think like I said, I'm not a sinker. I'm a swimmer.
I love that. I'm not a sinker. I'm a swimmer. Emily Bonner's just popped a note in saying yes to swimming. I'm not quite sure where we're going with that, but Emily says, excellent. I'm sure that was a message directed at you, Andrew. And now also part of the research, and we spoke, didn't we, briefly, and you reminded me of a time where our paths crossed.
Massively, massively inspirational. And of course, I was only very new to the diagnosis, and I remember there was quite an elderly lady who was very active with Muscular Dystrophy UK, and she almost took me under her wing and said, right, you're coming with me, and you're going to have to drive, because I don't drive, she said. And I had absolutely no idea, way before sat-navs. And we drove to this almost like a scout hut or a town hall somewhere. I have no idea where I was, and I'm sat there seeing people in power chairs for the first time, and the scientists getting up and then talking about the disease. And then you came on, and of course, all the emotions I was going through, even though I was telling myself that was it, I was, I'm going to fight this. You're very kind of apprehensive about, are you going to be successful? Are you going to be able to live a fully kind of a full-on life? And then I'm seeing this person, yourself, like, wow, he's gone to the polls. I mean, that's absolutely staggering. And especially the story over flying in. And I think there was some politics. And then taking the steps across the polls, I was sat there, just goosebumps was just this amazing feeling. And I'm thinking, wow, this is it. I've got someone to look up to. I've got someone that hopefully I'll meet one day. And but if not, I can see, I think when you see someone else doing something, despite the adversities, it does push you a little bit more to then think, you know what, if they found a way, then I'm going to find a way. I haven't gone to the polls yet, but that's perhaps in my cards for the future. Who knows?
That was my next question. Very good. And Chris, I read with enormous interest about your career of somewhat 50 years working in film and TV all over the world, with credits from some of the film classics that I was dipping into earlier, like North Sea Hijack and International Velvet and commercials. And documentaries to TV milestones such as Minder. I remember Minder and Peak Practice and things like Soldier, and many others. Any particular highlights from your time there?
I think highlights are difficult. I enjoyed every single job, really. Every little film you go onto, you become a very tight bond, and you become the best of friends.
Yep.
And you might work for 3 months or 6 months, and then you disappear.
Yeah.
And you start the next job. So new friends come in. So it's a very sort of moving industry with friends and colleagues. But I really, when I started working my way through, I started doing things with Dawn French, like Murder Most Horrid, and then I did all the Mel Smith shows, the ones they won all the awards from. And they were great fun, good fun to work with. And then you progress on to, as you say, Peak Practice, which had 17 million viewers, big films. And when I go back a few years when I first started as an assistant, working on some of the bigger films, I was working with amazing actors. And there was a different sort of thing that went on. The actors would be in the same hotel as you very often. And you'd be sitting in the bar at the end of the day, and sorry, I'm name dropping, but Richard Burton might come in, Robert Mitchum, and they come across and sit with you. And you suddenly think, oh, it's nice to have a drink with them. And then you go out and have a meal with them. All these little highlights, they blend in nicely. I
feel there's a book there. There's a book right there, Chris.
There is a book there, yes. I've just recently had to do, there is a book coming out. I'm a member of the BSC, which is the British Society of Cinematographers.
Yep.
And it's quite an elite gang. You have to be voted in by your peers, and you have to produce quite a lot of good material. So that was great. So, that side of it's nice when you get that award for the work you've done. You feel it's good. And, until I retired, I was doing major dramas like New Tricks, Doc Martin, that sort of stuff. Used to start shows off or get called in to change the look of a show. Yeah, so lots of highlights in every way, but across the board.
So you've got a well-stamped passport by the sounds of it. Are there any particular places on the planet that you feel, oh my goodness, I want to go back there again?
Yeah, there are. India is one of my favorite countries.
Right, yeah.
The color, the smell, the people. I've done several jobs out there, and on every occasion, it's been amazing. The scenery, everything about it. From Delhi going up to Simla in the mountains, it's just a wonderful experience for your mind.
And any places that you've gone to?
Africa is a fantastic continent. I've done a lot of work out in there. A lot of work in Zimbabwe many years ago. Yeah. I shot Soldier out there in a big series of Trevor Eve. And I love Africa. I love the colour. Again, the people are marvellous. And when you get outside the big cities into the country, the people are generous. They don't have anything, but they live in a way that is wonderful and generous. So, yeah, Africa is one of my favourite countries, along with, you can go on about Europe as well. But those two countries, if somebody said there's another trip to India,
you'll be there.
Be out there, and Africa.
You'll be there.
Yeah.
Very, very good. And now you're enjoying a well-earned retirement, walking around the beautiful Kent countryside, amongst other places, no doubt, taking photos and raising funds for Muscular Dystrophy UK. A cause I believe that's also close to your heart.
Well, it is very close to my heart, really. As you know, my daughter has muscular dystrophy, and I'm still struggling with that. I don't find that an easy thing to cope with. She is amazing. She's amazing, and this is the first thing she's really shared with full on. She did join us on Castle Walk a bit, but didn't feel quite in the groove. Whereas this, I think she's written a beautiful piece for the book, and she feels it was a very important thing to get off her chest. So that side of it is very important, and I think the idea of the pictures, that really inspired me to push on another line that can be enduring, that can go on for a period of time.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking, Chris, what is the name of your daughter?
It's Naomi Smith.
Naomi Smith. So a little shout out this evening to Naomi Smith. And Chris, to you and to all those that you know that are supporting the charity and so on. Thank you so much for all that you're doing in helping raise awareness and money for muscular dystrophy. So you know what? Before we get on to chat about the main event, because we're 19 minutes or so into this conversation already. Chaps, there's something that we're now doing as part of our In Conversation With broadcast, something we've got, like, not one, but actually 2 quick fire rounds, allowing our audience to get to know our guests just that little bit more, okay? So you're going to have to take it in turns to answer. So perhaps let's agree that Andrew replies first, followed by Chris. How's that? All right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Great. You chaps ready?
Good. Yeah.
Excellent. Here we go. Marmite, love it or loathe it?
Oh, love it. Yeah, with some cheese. Yeah.
And Chris?
Yes, I love it as well, but not with cheese.
Okay, this is a quick fire round, chaps. Okay, so cod, haddock, or sea bass?
Sea bass, without any question. Oh, that should have been Andrew. Sea bass.
Sorry. Yeah, well, I'm going to go sea bass too.
On the head, and I eat it in the frying pan.
Okay, well done. So this is directed first to Andrew, then Chris, right? So most used emoji on your smartphones.
Oh, it's the one with the slapped face.
Excellent.
Oh, I think it's the one with the big cheesy grin.
Very good. Fried or boiled eggs?
Poached, but we'll go boiled. Yeah.
Well, I like fried.
Okay,
2 at a time.
2 at a time. All right. Canterbury Cathedral, the Viking Coastal Trail, Dover Castle, or the Shell Grotto?
Canterbury Cathedral. Oh, it's right down the corner for me.
Canterbury Cathedral.
Wonderful.
It's inspiring.
One tune that puts you in a great mood.
Ooh. That's tough. I'm going to go English Country Garden. I can't think of the actual name of that song, but you can whistle it and you can hum it. It always puts you in a good mood, and it reminds you of Kent. So
wonderful, Chris.
Yeah. Purple Haze, Jimi Hendrix.
Very good. Now, apparently Kent has some of the best beaches, according to the Lonely Planet Guide. So for a breathtaking beach visit, would I be heading, chaps, to Pegwell Bay, Joss Bay, Hythe Beach, St Margaret's Bay, Tankerton, or some other beach?
Oh, that's a good point. I'm trying to think of the ones that have. There's a couple that have wheelchair
beach buggies.
Yeah, well, not necessarily big. I think there is one in Margate, but where you've got the railway sleepers that go across the entire beach. So you can, if you can put up with the juddering of the chair. So I'm going to choose Folkestone because I like the harbour. So Folkestone Beach and the harbour.
Okay, Chris?
Tankerton.
Okay.
Tankerton's got a beautiful grass slope and path that runs for nearly 3/4 of a mile.
Very good. Very good.
Fun.
So one item that you take to a desert island?
Well, it have to be the power chair. Otherwise, I wouldn't be moving very much. Yeah.
With a solar panel charging unit, clearly.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good. Chris?
I take my wife.
You take the wife. Okay, yeah. Very good. Good answer. Good answer.
I think so.
And finally, in this quick round, roast pork, roast chicken, or roast beef?
Or roast beef. Yorkshire puddings. Yeah.
Roast pork, crackling.
All right. So, guys, thank you for that. Let's chat about reflections in color, which I believe is all down to this particular image that's being put up in a second. It's all down to this particular gorse bush in, I believe, Suffolk. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Tell us more.
Well, we were walking in Suffolk, Margaret and I, with my new camera that she just bought me because she thought I'd better start taking pictures again. And as you can see by the top part of the picture, the sky was amazing and it looked a bit like Africa in a strange way. So I took the picture and then thought, well, this is good. And then because I was playing with the camera, I thought I'd take a monochrome picture. But then I thought, oh, I'll take it with just the yellow colour, the gold of the gorse bush. Anyway, I took the 2 pictures, and then when I came home, I flipped on the pictures and looked at them. And then I thought, oh, I wonder what it would look like if I just joined simply the other one on the bottom. So I just flipped it and joined it. and I did a very simple join. It's just a little blur across the edge.
Mm.
And then I realized, of course, it wasn't a true reflection, although people look at it and think it is a reflection, and then they go, oh, but there's something not right. And then they realize, of course, the reflection isn't an exact reflection. And that got me interested in the idea of the color. So, you know, color's all around us, isn't it? It means a great deal, either a blue mood or, you know, a black mood, or, you know, a red mood, rage, envy. So the idea of the color, that's how it came in. And so I started taking pictures, and they're quite hard to find, the ones that really work. They don't always work. And I built up that collection from that one picture. And that was the idea of our original gallery show, to be called Reflection in Colour. It's grown from that. But that's the simple way that picture took place. I think it draws people in, because when you start looking at it, you think, oh, it's not quite right. But then if you flip it around the other way and you put the black and white on top, it has another interesting, and all those pictures look interesting both ways. So you can flip them, have the black and white at the top, the colour at the bottom, and they all have a different feel about them.
So we're gonna share some of the images that make up the Reflections in Colour collection. So let's just have a look, and then we'll just kind of mooch through these images that we're going to pop up, and we'll have a little chat about them. I'm going to direct this question to Andrew, actually. So, you know, this particular image, what are you seeing in it? And I'm also interested to learn a little bit more about the journey of engaging the hearts and minds and the support of I believe some 50 people with different, you know, muscle wasting conditions. Tell me a little bit more about, I suppose, what you're seeing here in this particular picture, because I know that one resonates with you, but also the number of people that have got involved to support and get behind this project.
I think when Chris first showed me some of the pictures, it was on an iPad in a cafe, and I just remember being completely blown away. And I said to Chris, "Look, these are stunning images, but they mean something from a disability perspective, and especially the house there as well, because you've got the vibrant colour on the top." And that's what everybody sees, everybody likes. But then on the flip side, you've got that kind of grayer tone, and a lot of them are like that. And like Chris said, you get twice the a bang for your buck, because you can turn the picture around if you're having a kind of moody day that you want to have a different feeling from the artwork. But it kind of, to me, it just said about disability, because the outside world sees the happy, a bright face, and you have to put that bright face on to kind of get out there. You don't want to be that angry disabled person that's, you know, ramming into people in the streets. But deep down, you're kind of fighting that reflection, which perhaps isn't quite as happy, and you have to be able to get your game face on to be able to go out there. And it was interesting, because that was what I saw from it. But when I started to then send out to other people with various different muscle diseases, and I started to see their reflections, I was hoping that they were going to be positive, because what you didn't want is lots of reflections of people talking about the negative and the bad side. And especially if young people that are new to disability are going to be reading these, you wanted it to be uplifting, to show the positive side of life. And I was really, really happy when I saw so many people write such profound things. And it was interesting, because a couple of the people that had agreed to take part of it were perhaps friends of mine from the community. And then as soon as they agreed, I'd be pestering them, saying, right, we need your reflection by next week. We need it by next week. And they'd be like, well, I don't really do this kind of thing. I'm really nervous. And I remember one lady kind of chatting to me. She said, this is just, I've seen so much about myself by really looking at this picture. And she enjoyed it immensely. And then it wasn't a one-off. I had 2 or 3 other people kind of come forward and say they'd almost gone through a journey as part of writing it. And yeah, it's but it all comes back to the artwork, and I think that's where I kind of thank Chris for bringing this project to life by providing the tools for everybody else.
Absolutely. I think for me, that's what gives this collection its depth and its credibility around the variety of observations and reflections, and how an image can really make somebody feel in a particular way. I'd never thought about it. In fact, when there was a particular sentence or a quote, if you like, which I'm going to credit Chris to because it's his words. Anyone can take a photograph, but not so many can see a picture. And, you know, when you go to an art gallery and you see people sitting on a bench and they're staring at a picture, you know, they're immersed in that moment in time, and their mind is wandering and exploring, and their imagination is flowing. I think one point I wanted to say, Andrew, to you was around young people who see perhaps their disability as a superpower, right? So, you know, maintaining that positivity is such a wonderful thing. So maybe I just wanted to touch on the world that we live in today, which is, you know, millions and millions of people have their smartphones, they're snapping away constantly and publishing on, you know, Instagram and wherever. But, you know, it requires a particular skill, doesn't it? It requires this particular eye to capture something, you know, as memorable as some of these pictures. And I've looked at all of them, and they all tell a story. They all speak in different ways. And it's really seeing that image and then exploring how that image makes you feel, or in this case, how the photographs have made, you know, 50 people with muscular dystrophy across the UK feel. So let's have another look at one of the other images. Right now, I happen to know that this one is one of Andrew's favourite. Beautiful picture, Andrew. What are you seeing there?
Well, I think you've got the fun, you've got the brightness. It kind of reminds me of Africa, but you've also got a little bit of a challenge there, because it's on a shingle beach, on a stony beach. And even though I've got an all-terrain wheelchair that came from Australia that can get me a number of places, it can't go over those kind of stones. So I look at that and I see that's something that I want to go and visit, but I can't do without the reasonable adaptation, which is the boards that go around the outside. And those boards are helpful and useful to everybody. So it kind of brings in inclusivity and a kind of social model of disability. And then I look at the sky, because the picture's got so much going on. And even those kind of trails throughout the sky, that reminds me of air travel. And you think air travel, you've got the excitement and the wonder of going somewhere else, like Chris said, going across to the continent of Africa, amazing experience. But then you've got the anxiety of thinking, well, what if my wheelchair's broken? What if I'm broken? Because I've got to be manually lifted out of my seat. But all those things you do, and I've flown 20 or 30 times and I've never had a major problem. But you've got to be prepared for and understand what you're getting involved in. You're not just stepping on a plane, perhaps, like everybody else. So to see that, it brings forward those emotions. But the biggest thing for me is it brings through the emotion that the end goal is worth the journey, even though the journey is going to be difficult and it's going to be perhaps stressful. And what's kind of fascinating is this particular beach hut. A good friend of mine, also with limb girdle, has used that beach hut to spend a penny. He was on the beach one day, and that just happened to provide a little bit of privacy when you can't walk back to the toilet, so kind of run as quickly as everyone else can. So the beach hut's not just an island; it is it's provided. No.
Wonderful. I mean, whilst you're looking at these wonderful pictures, please do, you can see the little ticker tape scrolling along the bottom there. Do jump on to the 3ws.crispandsharp.co.uk, and you'll see all these images in their beautiful glory, and you'll have the opportunity to actually buy some prints if you want to, different sizes and different price points, with profits being donated to Muscular Dystrophy UK. Or if you don't want to buy them, that's fine. You can make a donation straight to the charity, all right? So, and if you've got any questions, if those that are tuning in this evening got any questions, just pop a question into either Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll pick it up and pop it into our chat room. Please do ask any questions as we go along. We got another image that, Chris, I wanted to chat to you a little bit more about, and you know possibly what's coming. You may not know, a bit of a surprise for you. But tell me about this wonderful, wonderful image, the teapot.
Well, I will. First of all, you're very kind about the images, but I think the images are a voice box for these amazing stories that come across. The pictures are one thing, but the stories that go with these pictures are just amazing, and that is really what Andrew and I wanted. This I took as a bit of whimsy, really. It was a picture of a bluebell wood. But the greens are incredibly vibrant. And while I was looking at it, I thought, well, I don't think I'll use that picture. And then I suddenly found a teapot. And I thought, well, that's quite interesting for a kitchen, a potted tree, a bit whimsy. So that's how that came about. And then our very good sort of social media guy, Gareth, used it for the campaign, which is called Pot of Tree. The pot of tree idea comes about sharing. So there's a very nice little pot of tree video that comes up, which eventually reveals the pot of tree and asks you to share. And that's what this picture has really worked. You know, for the price of a pot of tea, £4, if everybody donated £4 or £5 for a pot of tea, MD UK would do very well. More money goes into the research that way. So the pot of tree has worked better than I thought, because it's given us the idea of the campaign.
It's such a striking,
although it's a very simple one.
It's a great idea. It's such a striking image. I've got to ask, who does the image editing?
Well, it's me. I do
good.
that. I don't do a great deal. Occasionally, if I think a picture warrants a little bit of mirroring or something, I do that. Occasionally I enhance some a little bit if I'm trying to get a specific look. I think the one that you wrote about, your wonderful poem, that was a tree that was called the Druid's tree by the farmer. And so I tried to make that quite simply, because the clouds were there, everything was there, but just by enhancing it a little bit. Yeah, that's the one. You know, it was a dull day, so I added a bit of sepia and I enhanced the sharpness, which gives, when you see the full print, there's a little white line that goes around the whole of the tree. And the sun was just coming through a little bit, so I added a bit of sparkle on that to create something that is quite striking when you see it printed on a large format. So, yeah, there is a bit of manipulation in places, but not a great deal. Most of it's a little bit of enhancing of colour, a bit of saturation. But that picture, yeah, I did enhance it, and I think it's. I'm looking at it now, and I think, yeah, it's. If you want a picture on your wall that says something and it strikes you a bit, and the other story that's written about it is amazing, because it's that lovely lady there whose name is gone, but she was brilliant because she talks about the tree being fingers, and when you look at it, suddenly, that's what you see, isn't it? And it's a little bit like the reflections. A lot of the stuff, you know, you don't see the roots. You don't when you look at the black and white image of, say, deal flowers, beautiful colour on the top. Underneath, there's still a vibrant green, but the roots are deep, and it's the roots that perhaps don't have the colour, but you need to push up. Which is back to what Andrew says: positivity, moving forward, never letting it. I always get a bit emotional here, so you've got to forgive me. I just think moving on in the right way for people, like my daughter is doing.
Yeah.
You know, well, it's, you know, she can't run, she can't bend down and pick things up, but she can still ride a horse. And she's doing amazingly well. I mean, I know I'm outside the box a bit here, but you know, she can glide across the ground on a horse, and her dressage is still perfect. You know, so. That's what these pictures mean. They're a voice box to get these stories. Your stories, Andrew's stories, you know, they're important, I believe.
You can share with your daughter that many, many moons ago, I used to ride with the Riding for the Disabled Association, which is an outstanding charity. And I rode dressage, and I was on board a 16.5-hand horse by the name of Major George, who's a skewbald cob. And I won my dressage class at Highclere Castle at the National IDA Championship. So anything is possible, right? So listen, I'm no poet, but you guys will know that I jotted a little poem together after I saw that immensely striking image, which every time I see it, it speaks to me. And for those that don't know that story, they just have to, all you have to do is go to crispandsharp.co.uk and you can check out the poem. I don't want to spoil it this evening, okay, guys? But you can also buy different size prints, as I said, or you can simply make a donation to the Muscular Dystrophy UK. Now, Andrew, knowing that your happy place is at the family farm in the countryside on a warm day, and boy, have we had a few of those, and many more to come, I hope. And knowing that your happy place, Chris, is at home with your family and visits to Lake District, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'd be good. It would be absolutely wonderful to get a takeaway message from both of you at this time, to all those with muscular dystrophy across the UK, around perhaps why, for example, encouraging everyone to think about and know their own happy places is a good thing, right?
I think you've got to have that inner strength somewhere to go to. And to me, it was all about getting outside and getting back to nature in whatever form that you can do, because there's something about the vibrant, fresh air that really kind of picks you up when you're having a tough time. But it's strange. And I was telling my son the other day, ever since I was a child, I had this very strange feeling that I was going to be in a wheelchair one day. And in the back of my mind, I kind of wasn't that concerned, because as long as I could get out there and enjoy life and enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the countryside, and I was almost very blasé, thinking, people in wheelchairs, what do they have to worry about? If you can do that, then surely that's the kind of essence. And had no idea what was coming. And you kind of look back and you think, well, it's not always quite as happy-go-lucky as that. But yeah, just you can get in a bad place where you end up stuck inside and you end up kind of doubting yourself and having horrible thoughts. But it's getting the inner strength of saying, getting outside, getting back out there, especially when you're mixing with society. And it doesn't take a lot to knock your confidence, but getting back out there is just, to me, so important.
Chris?
I think it's important to realise there's lots of friends. There's lots of people that are here prepared to help, as in the castle walk. Hundreds of people joined in on that. With this, the help that has come in, we might talk about this a bit later, to set the book up with no cost. People are behind you all the way. And I think it's important to try and realise that you're not alone. And my daughter, I just say what Andrew was saying about the nature, my daughter says that the sensory healing power of nature is always there for us if we allow it. It welcomes us and it does not judge. And I think those words, to me, from my daughter, are vitally important. So that's the main thing. We're all here to help, whatever we can do. I just, one little thing, if I may say, that Paul Peterson, his parents turned up on Sunday.
Yes.
They came to Whitstable and they got in touch and I met them. And they walked along Tankerton Functure where I took the picture of the bench. They were lovely people. Really lovely people. And they told me about their son and how great he was and what he did. And, he was a positive guy, journalist and whatever. And we got back and we said goodbye and they drove all the way back to Essex. And there was me. I was almost in tears, emotional, because I felt in one way that had helped them, but equally they'd helped me, if you understand.
Yeah, I do. So it's really important right now. I think we can all agree, because we all know that happy places are often, restorative in nature. They can be healing, they can be soothing, they can be uplifting, right? And, keeping with the reflections in color theme, I'd now like to play a short film. So I want you all to sit back, take a deep breath. All right, there's no background music to this film. So I want you to just enjoy the next 60 seconds or so with this visual, silent moment in time that I hope encourages all of you to not only go discover your happy place, but also learn more about this very, very moving online photographic collection.
It says it all, doesn't it?
It does. So chaps, moving on. Slight gear change coming up. So in terms of life lessons, what advice would you give your younger selves? Andrew, do you want to kick off?
Don't take things too seriously. And I think people that know me probably think that I don't take things too seriously, but there was times in life when I did take myself too seriously. So I think you've got to just roll with it. And I like making that joke in my business world, where I meet a customer for the first time, and I say, "Well, I only get rolled out when people owe us too much money," and quite literally rolled out as I roll into the door. And it just, it takes a very tense situation and kind of just breaks the ice a little bit. So yeah, you've got to have fun with life.
Chris?
Yes, you've got to have fun. I think you never say no. You always have to take a risk. If you don't take the risk, you might not move on to the next thing. But if you don't take the risk, you never know. So yeah, take risks. It's fun because something very often comes good at it. And I'm one that has taken risks in my early career. And if I hadn't taken them, I might be doing something completely different.
Yeah. So in terms of having fun.
Enjoy life. And never let things get you down too much, because it's just moving on in the right way and keeping a light attitude.
Very good. So in terms of having fun, we would be remiss of me not to at least talk a little bit about movies and discovering your favorite movies, chap. So Andrew, do you want to lead off?
Well, I'd say Star Wars, and I'm one of those people that likes all of them. It doesn't really have a favourite. I will literally watch kind of any Star Wars film. And I think the other movie I chose was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. That film, I just remember, it takes me back to Blockbusters, to getting a video out, going home with the family, being allowed to stay up late, and then just watching this this person who, and I suppose because I've always grown up within a family business, I've always had that chip on my shoulder that I'll be the boss's idiot son. But in the movie, you've got the kind of son of the heir, a lord of the manor, who's fallen from grace, but then comes back round and kind of wins the day, and the girl to boot. So plus it's got a fantastic soundtrack, and it's all about getting into nature. So it's a bit cheesy, but to me, those are my favourites.
Chris?
Well, it's Spartacus.
Right.
My father took me to see Spartacus when I was about 12. And it's all about freedom, really, isn't it? And it's about him escaping and taking a risk to get away from the Romans and get his men, his gladiators, back to, I think it was their own country. And the Romans eventually sort of caught up with them after a battle. And isn't it where they said, we won't crucify you if you tell us who Spartacus is? And then everybody said, I'm Spartacus, and I'm Spartacus. And that stuck with me, that whole film. It was long with a big intermission in the middle. The cinema was packed. And when I came out, my head was buzzing with the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And the second one would be 2001, A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick. Well, it was just in the film industry, really just moving on. And I thought the way they did stuff and the way it was put together, HAL, the computer, and that, it played on my mind. So that's another favourite of mine.
Great stuff. Good stuff. So it's that time again for our second quick fire round. So Andrew first, Chris second. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Go for it.
Here we go. What's your hidden talent?
Hidden talent. Quick fire round. Got a very large tongue. It's great for eating ice cream with.
Okay.
Part of the muscle disease. Your tongue gets bigger. But yeah, that'll be my hidden talent.
Excellent. Chris?
Tying fishing knots.
Very good. Okay. What did lunch look like for you today?
Ooh, samosas and Indian chicken. So
Wow, lovely.
Good flavours today. Yeah.
Wonderful. Chris?
I had a salad with a pork pie. Very nice indeed.
Very good.
There you
Biggest fear, Andrew? Biggest fear?
Biggest fear? I suppose being in the wheelchair far from home and your battery going flat, or having a puncture. Yeah. So being stranded.
Being stranded. Chris?
Do you know, I don't think I have a big fear.
Okay.
I accept life for what it is and whatever it throws at me as well. So I don't have a big fear.
Moving on. Food hell, Andrew.
Oh, I like all my food.
No, this is food hell. This is
food hell.
You do not like, right?
I'm gonna have to go a really smelly cheese. A really smelly cheese.
Yeah. We're on the same page there, I think, my friend. Chris?
Well, mine would be sea slug.
Okay.
Which I had in Hong Kong, and I had to force myself to eat it, but I didn't realise that if you ate it, it was a delicacy, and they supplied you with more.
Okay, very good.
I stayed in one piece, I have no idea.
And Andrew, next one. Best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Love yourself, because no other bugger will. And it was one of those kind of fleeting moments. I walked past someone in a lift, and it's always stuck with me. Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, move on.
Move on.
Stay in one place.
Move on. Take risks. Move on.
Yeah.
Very good. Andrew, place you'd like to visit most?
Love to see the pyramids. Love to see Egypt. Yeah.
Chris?
At this moment in time, I'd like to go to the Lake District.
Okay, very good.
For sure.
Andrew, bamboo, plastic, or electric toothbrush?
Bamboo. Definitely.
Very good. Top man. Chris?
I'm electric, afraid.
Very good. Andrew, signature dish in the kitchen. Are you a bit of a chef in the kitchen?
Shepherd's pie. I can make a mean shepherd's pie.
Very good. Chris?
It has to be sea bass again.
Sea bass again. Very
Yes,
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, first career that you perhaps dreamed of having as a kid?
I wanted to work on a cruise ship. I wanted to see the world. Not sure what I would be doing, but I always wanted to work on a cruise ship.
Okay, very good. Chris?
Well, I love football, so my first career thought was always to play for Chelsea.
Chris, you and I are not going to get on very well at this rate, okay? So
Yes, I dare ask any new support.
Andrew, one thing that you're particularly excited about that's coming up for you?
I suppose just the relaxation of COVID rules when it's safe to do so. Meeting people face to face. My 40th birthday that I didn't have last year. Getting everyone together in one place again. Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, it would be getting everybody together. It was our 50th wedding anniversary last year, which had to be cancelled. So it'd be nice to celebrate that with all our friends at some point when it's clear enough to do so.
And
last one, Andrew. What's the last text message you sent?
God, last text message. Probably to my father.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Chris?
Last one was to you.
Just checking, see? Just checking to see you're paying attention.
I am just checking. And you know what was in it.
So with all that we've been through, with this wretched pandemic, we recognize that now actually more than ever, yes, we all need something to elevate our spirits a little bit, right? So Andrew and Chris, if you could invite two celebrities to your respective homes for a beer or a pot of tea to help lift spirits, to chew the fat, who would they be and why?
Well, I mean, Stephen Hawking, and it is quite a cliche, just because of what he did for disability.
Yeah.
But seeing the two movies that kind of depicted him, the Benedict Cumberbatch and the Eddie Redmayne film, being Hawking or The Theory of Everything, and I'd love to speak to him and say, were they right? You know, was that the right way that you would want yourself to be shown? And just to try and have a conversation with him that didn't involve science, that was way over your head. I think it'd be really interesting to get to know the person and ask him how he felt about the fact that, you know, whether or not he wanted to, he was elevated, you know, even beyond The Simpsons. And whether that was because of the disability that he'd overcome, or because of his amazing theories, or perhaps both. But it was, to me, to get behind the nuts and bolts of what makes him tick. The second one is a similar theme, and that's Amelia Clark. And there's many reasons why I'd love to have a conversation with her, be it Game of Thrones or the fact that she was in a Star Wars film. But recently, and I'm not a big fan of movies that are about disability, and normally I'll try and avoid them like the plague, because you get stuck in that cliche of the angry disabled person, that someone comes along to cheer up, or even worse still, the kind of better off dead concept, which is terribly damaging for those of us that are positive and lead good lives. But when I watched the movie Me Before You, where she plays this kind of vibrant carer, I would love to know from her perspective when she was in that role. The movie seemed to have a profound impact on her character for the goodness, and it was just to try and get behind that. I mean, that movie made me cry and laugh and all sorts of things that I didn't think was going to be possible, because I don't like those kind of films. But yeah, we'd just love to know what impact it had on her.
Good stuff, Chris.
Yeah, I can see the time. Well, yeah, I could have talked about Obama, but in the end I went for Tom Hanks, because over this period of lockdown, I've seen quite a few of his movies, and I think his movies are always quite inspiring and always have good endings. I mean, and how can you call a volleyball Wilson in The Castaway? You know, it makes you laugh. Forrest Gump, you know, life is like a box of chocolates. Sully, about the plane crash. All his films seem to have a good ending, and he comes across as a really interesting man. So I'd love to have a little chat with him. The other guy is Edward Hopper.
Yep.
The artist, realist. I've always loved his stuff ever since I saw A House by a Railway Line, with the angle of the house with the rusty railway line underneath. And then you look at the house, the way it's lit, quite harsh on the front with shadows. And that inspired my lighting, because when you look at a lot of pictures like Chop Suey, he has quite hard light coming through the windows, always creating a light on the floor. Nighthawks, you know, the way the light comes out of the room. So he inspired me a lot to my style of lighting. And, you know, so that would be my second one.
Very good. A little shout out going to the chat room. Shout out to Philippa. Good evening, Philippa, from the Duchenne Family Support Group, DFSG. As comment, so inspirational, so good to hear how this project was formed, the amazing partnership, and how lives have been touched. Thank you so much for letting me part of it. Thank you so much, Philippa, for your comment. That's really great. So, speaking of having our spirits lifted, who makes you laugh? In brief, Chris.
Oh, my wife makes me laugh. She has a way of giggling. If something tickles her fancy and she starts laughing, it's very absolutely infectious. She would get the whole table laughing just by her laughing. So it has to be. Margaret's a great person, and she's been quite a driving force behind this as well. So, you know, love it.
Well, big thank you shout out to Margaret, and a big thank you to Margaret. Andrew.
Young Thomas, my son, he's 8 years old. He will sit on my lap as I'm flying around in a wheelchair, and he'll fart in terrible farts, and then giggle because he knows that I'm going to have to smell them. So to be able, I'm going
to give you guys a bit of a shout out for your Spin at Light Speed, which is your YouTube channel. So this is a shout out from me to Thomas. This is a muscle warrior salute to your son Thomas. You should be very proud of your dad. So moving on, tell us about one or two goals or aspirations that you want to achieve in your lives. If I could ask you to be fairly brief with your answers, I'd be really grateful. Andrew, do you want to kick off?
I think just keep enjoying life.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing really that I want to do that I haven't done. You want to travel, but equally, just got to get up every day and have a smile.
Yeah, good stuff. I like that. Get up every day and have a smile. Chris?
Yeah, well, I want health and happiness for my family, and I'd like to raise a lot of money for muscular dystrophy. You know, if I had a chance, I'd like to thank just a couple of people, because without their help, this might not happen. Is there time? Briefly, I'd like to thank Gareth Masseus for all his work in getting this book together. Jonathan Guire, who's done the website, who is absolutely brilliant.
Yep.
And also for our publisher, who's given all his time and his work to set up this book at no cost, as well as Kate and Louise of MD. I think they're important people. And without this, we'd be paying money to get this far.
Final question to close off this evening's conversation. You guys you've been great sports. Thank you so much. One thing perhaps that we can all do to make the world a better place. Andrew?
Go to Crisp and Sharp and buy the book, which is a terrible plug, but I think just to be kind to each other. You know, that's important.
To be kind to each other.
Yeah, I agree. Kind to one another, and donate as much as possible, even if it's just a pot of tea or a cup of coffee. It all
Very
helps.
good. So a huge thanks to Andrew and Chris for being such great guests. Muscle Warriors, salute. If I can ask you both, if you're able, just to show me your guns, give me your best Muscle Warrior salute, and hold it for 3 seconds, so we can do. Grace can do a screen grab. Great stuff. And as you all know, Muscle Warrior salute is a visible symbol of hope, courage, strength, joy, and unity for all those with muscular dystrophy. So big thanks, of course, to Andrew and to Chris, and to all those behind the scenes who've been involved in supporting Reflections in Colour. It's a fantastic project, and I would urge you and encourage you to go and discover more. And also, I just wanted to say, if you've enjoyed tonight's episode, you know what you need to do, right? So please, can I invite you to make a donation? Look at the little ticker scrolling along the bottom there. So why not head over to crispandsharp.co.uk, check out all the fantastic images, and remember that all of Chris's photographs are for sale, and all sales contribute towards fundraising for MD UK. Happy viewing, happy sharing. And Andrew and Chris, as is the custom, I've got to ask you, okay? If you chaps know someone who you think would be a great guest for a future In Conversation With episode, please do have a think and come back to me. Let us know. All right. And finally, breaking news. Here's our drum roll. Breaking news. So our 27th episode takes place on Wednesday, the 23rd of June, going live at 7:30 p.m. sharp. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? We have yet another rather special double act lined up for you. We're going to be chatting about all things rare, and by that I mean the rare leadership team that produced the Rare Revolution magazine, published by NRG Collective, a not-for-profit media company specializing in rare disease content, where my guests will be Nicola Miller, editor-in-chief, and Rebecca Stewart, CEO, Rare Revolution magazine, and who's also co-founder and trustee of the Teddington Trust. Many of you will, I'm sure, have heard of or perhaps know about, and maybe you subscribe to the Rare Revolution magazine. It's a digital magazine giving a really, really important voice to patients who are directly affected by rare conditions, but the publication also gives a voice and an excellent engagement platform for the many, many charities that represent and support patients with rare diseases. So be sure you make a date with us again. That's Wednesday, the 23rd of June at 7:30 p.m. There's the diary date once again. Big thanks to tonight's special guests, Andrew Robertson, Dr. Andrew Robertson, and Chris Howard, and to, of course, our StreamYard studio team, to Shari and to Grace. Thank you so, so much once again for volunteering your time this evening. For now, have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.